Hello everyone. After a comment on my 5-room dungeon post that I made on Reddit, a comment brought up the idea of how easy is it to make a map using the Forgotten Adventures Nexus module. And I thought, well, it'd be a good idea to make a little tutorial. So I'm using the exact same map layout that I used for the one I posted, which is also on my Patreon. But I just wanted to make a video that I can kind of show the building techniques that I use and the process of doing it. So, pretty simple. These little walls right here, or pillars right here, kind of mark where this is actually 2 separate rooms. And I made this entire point in Dungeon Draft as a sort of a blueprint or layout for the main thing. So what we will start with first is walls, and it's going to be very similar to the first one I made, but I'm thinking about making this an invisible wall or a hidden room, so it's going to be a slightly different layout. So we'll use Nexus, and we'll go to Paths, and I'm a fan of the earthy wall assets for dungeons. I just think it gives more of a dated look. And I really like this one here, the Drow earthy wall. So what I'll do is, if you use Control mouse wheel, you can change the scale of the objects, or specifically the paths. But if you use Alt, you can change the elevation. Now, anything below 1 is going to be under the tokens. So imagine your tokens, like your actors and NPCs, they are always on level 1. So if you want stuff like furniture and just things on the ground, I like to use 0 through 9, or 0 to 0.9. And for walls and such, if you put them above 1, tokens can go under. So typically for walls, I just do 5. I feel like that's a pretty good spot because I still have some wiggle room. So we'll do snap to grid. And currently there's no way to make straight paths. You can turn the tolerance down, but what I do is if you hold shift and click again, you can continue. You make a point and keep going. And you'll notice that there's a weird like black orb there where the path texture gets clipped out, but we'll put a pillar there later and fix it. So we're just gonna make some pretty quick walls, and again this is going to be a invisible room, so we can actually use a different wall texture there, and then I'm shrinking the wall scale with Control. This is sort of the difficult part. There's no way to make like a point here. Well, there is, but it's a little tricky, but I just do this currently. It's not terribly difficult. Doesn't look great now, but I can go back and get that fixed. So what I'm thinking here will be a different wall asset to make it slightly stand out. One thing I also like to do is the background tiles. I will change the elevation of that to most likely -10 or even further. That way I can paint stuff on top of it without having to worry about that being a layer that gets in my way. And darn it. That's the one thing I'm still getting used to. Let's go right there. There we go. Sometimes you gotta go over. So we got our wall in, so now we'll do earthy pillar. And we'll find a pillar that we like. I usually just like the simple, kind of uneven ones. We will bump the elevation up to, we can bump it up to 6.5 just to give us some wiggle room. And really these are things that players won't ever see, but I like to cover them anyway, just for my own aesthetic, really. And another thing you probably notice is you can change the shadows and the shadow direction, which is very handy. But I usually keep the shadows quite low. Usually I leave just a little bit there for a little depth, but I'll go back in later with a shadow path and add some. And again, some of these can be rotated, but players, once you add the actual walls into your map, the players aren't going to be able to see them really. But and then for these angled corners, I like to change up the pillars to make it a little more unique and organic. Okay, so we have walls, we have pillars. What we need now is doors. So what we'll do is door. I like the ashen and walnut objects, so we'll go with some ashen doors. And the doors, I always keep them up high so tokens can still go under them. There's not really a reason to do that, but I just think it's nicer than tokens going over them for some reason. Sort of gives the idea that they may actually be tall doors, but then this is the entrance, and so there's not really a reason for them to be here, but again, just design choices. So now we have a somewhat large room. Let's do another wall. Earthy. We'll do this one here. Scale it down just a little bit. Save it. And so now, when players see it, if they're paying attention, they may realize, oh, it's different. Maybe there's something behind it. But, it's always up to the DM. I always just put little things here and there that sometimes players or the DM can use. Sometimes they can just ignore it and just say, oh, it's a different wall. So then what I really like to do to make my dungeons look a little bit dirtier and more frequented, we will get some dirt. And so this is on the texture tables. Before that, actually, we'll go to the map, and what we'll do is we'll set the elevation of the default map to be much different. So we'll do background elevation -10. That's actually for the walls. Let's see, foreground, there it is. We'll do -10. This way, with the walls being at 5, and these tiles are now -10, there's essentially 15 layers that we can use. So now, we'll drop the opacity down a little bit in the scale. So now we can sort of dirty up the room. Dirt, grime, gravel, mud. Just do some low opacity passes over this stuff and really kind of makes it look worn out, worn down. And then one thing I like to do, if there's an invisible wall, I'll usually do a little path of dirt, sort of make it look like, oh, maybe there's a reason that dirt's there, maybe something is in there. I also change the dirt up mid-painting, just because it's this darker dirt stands out more. So we'll do some basic painting. And because it's all walled off, I don't really mind going past the borders. Like I'll do shadows that overlap and all. I like to think of it all like a theater play or a Broadway like stage. Everything that's behind the curtains, the players won't even see anyways, so there's no point in stressing out over stuff like that. So we'll lower the opacity just a little more. Just kind of get it, a little paint dirt on there. And then to save the painting, you don't want to hit escape or change to a different one, you want to hit S to save it, which there are shortcuts down here on the little tool page. And so now we'll go to some gravel and turn the opacity up just a little more, scale down. I like to turn the scale down because I think it makes the assets a little bit higher def, higher quality. We'll do some gravel just to sort of make it look like it's crumbling and decaying a little bit. And you know, this is sort of a test build to show how the tool works, so I'm not really worrying too much about the purposes of this dungeon, but we'll do something simple but sort of fun, and I'll probably end up getting that posted as well. One thing I also like to do is put one layer over the other, such as dirt and then gravel on top. Sort of makes it look a little more aged and lived in and such. So we'll save that. And now we can go to earthy rubble and drop that elevation down. Alright, so we'll drop that down. Ignore my dog barking. So we're going to add some rubble. I also need to complete this wall, the two rooms here. Let me actually do that real quick. So we'll get sort of a simple wall. Make sure we're on a good height. 4s. There we go. So we want to go keep it even. So we'll go there and there. Earthy hill. And if you hold Shift Alt, you go up in increments of 0.5 instead of 0.1. There's a couple different ways you can do that. Door, passion. Let's actually do a stone door here, since it's supposed to be two separate rooms. We'll make it a little more fancy. Okay. So now we got two rooms, one over there. Alright. Sorry if I pause and unpause. I got dogs barking in the backyard. Okay. So two rooms. So we were on earthy rubble. Now again, a lot of this is based on what you're trying to sell to the players and such. When I think of dungeons, I think of ancient and old and ruined. So I like to put quite a bit of rubble in here. But rubble also creates some good depth for the dungeon, for the map. It's usually out of the way, but looks good because it's usually just in the corners and such, or on walls. So we'll do some of that. And Shift scroll wheel again can change the scale of objects. We'll do some big rubble, small rubble. Sometimes I like to incorporate the big bricks to make it look like big chunks of the building are collapsing. And then you can also hold Control and Shift to do very small rotations. Okay, sorry about that. I had to step away. So, again, like this too, some rubble in the edges of the room. And nice thing about this module is if you were to download the JSON file and plug it into your world, you can basically just start adding or removing the things that I have already put down, or anyone who put down who uses it. So that's pretty handy, because I know sometimes people may find a map that they really like, but then there's always one thing that they may not like or wish was slightly different. So we're just gonna add just a little more gravel and rubble. Don't need to spend too much time on it. There we go. Okay, so we'll stop there. We'll put one more right there to make it look like maybe some rubble fell from the ceiling. Just remembered that I didn't even do this room, so quick rubble placements. And again, I'm under the one layer, so tokens and such will be able to walk over these assets without going underneath them or anything. That's one thing you'll want to remember. Now that we got some rubble down, let's look at more pillars, earthy. I always enjoy doing some of these hollow pillars that Forgotten Adventure has. And we'll set that up to 2.0 elevation. We'll just do 2 in the middle of the room just to make some obstacles. And there we go. So now if you think about it, with the way elevation works, if you're doing like levels, like the Ripper 93 levels module, you'll probably want to have everything at 10 or around there. I have played with the layer module and this Nexus module together. They do work fairly well, but you sort of have to toy with specific things to make them work great. As I've noticed, the drop shadows will basically clip through the floor, and they'll shine even in spots that you may not want them to. So one thing we'll also do, this is sort of just the fun immersion part, but doing some wood beams to create some layers for the tokens to walk under. As you look, there we go. I had my layers wrong. So doing it this way, players can walk under these, and it's just sort of fun immersion and all. And again, not too worried about what's beyond the walls. Players won't be able to see that far anyways. So we'll do this one right there. Okay. So that sort of just creates that layer effect that we enjoy. Something about it just seems like everyone always likes it. Also notice this one is off-centered, so we're going to go here. That makes more sense. Again, this is just a quick map, so we're not too worried about details or anything. Alright, so back to the tool. So now, since it's a dungeon, we'll figure out what kind of dungeon is it. Well, we could do statues and all that. We could do sarcophagi or sarcophagus, whichever one it is. But we'll get to that in just a second. pillars again, and since these are copy and pasted, they're already at 2 elevation. And we'll actually do one large sarcophagus. Let's get a slab going. This sort of just helps break up the textures of the earthy texture so it doesn't all look the same. So we'll do that, and then the fun thing about these assets, again, as a DM, you can use Monk's tile triggers and you can script them. So if you want to make them like slide and rotate if the players make a roll, you can do that. So you can put, we'll put a, let's see, mummy or corpse. If we can find a wrapped body, we'll put that in there. Change the elevation a little bit, put that on, slide that over. So again, all these are basically 0.1 decimal layer off from one another, so they're technically on their own layer, which is very handy. We'll also get, I like to add some unlit braziers, that way if the party wants to light some stuff, they can. I always like to make them limited, so they can't just light the whole room up. Let's see, it's one right there, we'll do one right there, and one right there. So then for this room, in most 5-room dungeons, they always say make the second room a puzzle room to engage the not so combat heavy players. We'll just do something generic. Let's see, podium or altar. Sort of what I did on my Patreon map, and we will do statue. We'll put a statue in here. Do something simple like a gargoyle or demon, some sort of little figurine. See. Which one? We'll do 3 little dragon statues. And then, just for fun, we'll put 2 large statues in the corner of these rooms. You know, again, not really having a plan here, but just off the top of my head, maybe if they pick the wrong icon, these statues fire off some magic, something like that. But then, we always want to make the rooms look cluttered just enough. Perhaps like another creature lives here. I always do, you know, maybe kobolds that loot the nearby town and village. So we'll do some storage crates, barrels and such. And the whole point of all this is just to sort of create some barriers and also just make the map look good. So we'll just do some of that. Very simple, not a lot's needed. Another thing is once the lighting gets added in, it all really changes quite a bit. So then for the sarcophagus room, we'll probably just leave that as is. Thing as well. Bring some braziers in here. Oh, that's not grabbing it. There we go. Set the statue elevation to 1 so players can go underneath their hands and such. And then for this invisible room, for the room that's hidden, won't do anything too crazy, but who doesn't love a big room with a single chest in it? That'll really get the players thinking. Then we'll pull up another statue. Same as my map I uploaded on Patreon, I just put a big mage statue here. Perhaps you can have some traps down this hall and the statue fires off some magic bolts or something like that. But now we'll go to the fun part, which is adding walls. And if you have DF Curvy's wall module, which I'm still waiting to see if that ever gets updated, this will be even easier than it already is. The doors. I always like to make my doors 2 separate doors. We'll do secret doors right here. Terrain for the pillars. That. I don't know why I keep making this one side so offset. Back to walls. And then we need to do this part right here. We'll just do something simple. There we go. Now, one thing that's also pretty nice about Forgotten Adventures is they do have some animated assets. I believe it's this one here. Yep. Okay. Make this some immersive light so it's better looking for us. Here, we'll put those there and dole them out. Okay, we will reset Fog of War, change the map to night, just to get that lighting even better. And then we'll throw some simple monsters in. Couple kobolds. In this room we'll do a couple of giant rats. This room we can throw a mimic in, but we don't have a mimic monster sheet currently. And for this final room, let's do something fun like a vampire spawn. So obviously that's the little boss arena. This is the hidden treasure room. This is a possible trap room or small encounter room, puzzle room, and the first encounter. So now we'll hide that, turn GM Vision off, light our torch. I always like to change these up as well to make them a little more immersive. here's our walkthrough. Simple dungeon. Nice encounter. Fight through there. Progress. Alright, we have a room with a possible puzzle. Which lever or trigger do they activate first? Continue on to the next room. Again, players wouldn't even see this right here. But, you know, someone may see some dirt in the corners and think, maybe that's a invisible wall or a moving wall. They continue forward. Open the doors. Perhaps someone wants to light these torches, braziers. They do so as their torch runs out. Now they have a very ambient and uniquely lit room, creating certain patches of darkness. Perhaps some skeletons or something are hiding in there. And then a little boss fight. Once they kill the boss, you know, perhaps they can unveil what's inside the crypt, and as the DM you can actually move all that around. So this is sort of a tutorial and also the powers that you can use with this module. And there's a 5-room dungeon. So if you have any other ideas, or if you like what you see, please stick around. I don't really post a lot of videos, but I try to upload on Patreon fairly often. But yeah, thanks for stopping by.